All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Adina here from the Immigrant Finance Podcast, and I have our special guest today, Juan Peralta. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Good. I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We connected several months ago and just had an awesome conversation. I loved hearing about your experience getting started in your financial journey, and just thought it'd be really valuable for people to hear a little bit about your experience. Is there anything you want to say to kind of introduce yourself or let people know who is Juan?
Sure. Yeah. I can. Let's see if I can keep this short and sweet. My name is Juan Peralta, and like Adina said, I met her a few months ago. We had an awesome conversation. And let's see a little bit about me. I'm from San Jose, California. I am first generation U.S. citizen here, and then also first generation college student. My parents are immigrants to the U.S. We're originally from Mexico. And then I'm the oldest in my family, so I'm the oldest of three, so I have two younger sisters. And then that's a little bit about me, and I'm sure we'll get into more stuff, but there it is.
Love it. Thank you for sharing. And for those of you who are listening for the first time, if you're new to the immigrant finance community, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. A little background on immigrant finance. So our goal is really to be helping empower more immigrants to be building wealth and being financially strong, which includes investing, among other things like managing money, learning how to increase income, starting businesses, right? Budgeting, all of that. And we just love to share stories of people in the community who are doing these things and providing examples. So Juan, let's get started just talking a little bit about like what is your connection to immigration issues?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, both my parents are immigrants to the U.S., and so a lot of just even them, they came to this country without documentation per se, and so they, at some point when I was young, let's see, I think I would say I was probably like 8 or 9, where my parents were, they attempted to get their green card, and at the end of the story is they got their green card, which is great, and they're permanent residents now. But I think one of the big things back when I was young was that, and I wanted to mention here because it has to do with finance, but also with immigration, is just how scary it is to be an immigrant person within the U.S., let alone having to thrive in a country that you don't know a whole lot, and then how to thrive financially is just like an additional just barrier and challenge, obviously, that we go through. And I just remember when I was a kid, I just had this fear of being deported because I was, again, a first generation in the U.S., and I was very comfortable around my friends and around the school, and I didn't know what it was to live in another country, and so I was very scared, and I could see my parents being scared as well, right? So, and a big part of that was just the financial well-being of our family. So I think that's from the root of it all. That's my biggest connection to the immigration initiative, and that's a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like how that finance connection came in to sort of understand, what brought you eventually to wanting to improve your finances and be investing. Like what was going on, and what made you want something different?
Yeah, and so, just like I said, when I was young, that was what was going on, and obviously went through life. And one of the things that my parents always instilled in me was to go to college, right? And so that was one of the things that I always saw as a great thing, and it obviously is, and I value education a lot. But quickly after I graduated college, I realized that there was a big component that I didn't know anything about, which was financing. And I didn't do a business degree when I was an undergrad. I wasn't necessarily looking into any of that. And but when you graduate and you have your debt, your loans that from college, or you have bills and other things that you need to pay for, and then like I said, I'm the oldest of my family, so I saw that need that was going to be required for my sister. So like those skills, those financial literacy and financial understanding of how education works and how loans work, and how to be stable, how to thrive within society. Those are all skills that I needed to understand for myself, but then more importantly for me, it was for my sisters, right? So for
Yeah.
when it was time for them to move on, that's where I wanted them to understand a lot what was going on. With that, and so that took a while for me, though. Unfortunately, I think like one of the things that I think sometimes it's hard is to find a community that understands your struggle, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, even like, for example, again, I went to Santa Clara University, and there's a lot of great people around me that are doing great things and definitely that are into this kind of finance stuff and financial literacy. But sometimes if you don't reach out or if you're not actually looking for yourself, it takes a while.
Yeah.
So some self motivation is definitely needed there, to try to connect, right, and try to solve those issues. And then luckily, I had some good people that guided me, and so I eventually, right before I started my MBA, which by the way I'm currently in the MBA program.
Yeah.
So right before I started it about a year ago, a year before that, I actually started talking to one of my classmates about financial literacy. He's a financial coach, and so I actually did a 3-month program with him, and he made me rethink about my relationship with finance, but specifically with money.
Yeah.
And I think that was a key thing for me. I think one of the things I think in the immigration or in my experience with the people in my community, with immigrants, we have this idea that money is evil,
Yeah.
and that money is rooted in evil. And if you have a lot of it, then you've done evil things, or you don't care about people, or you're that other, right? So we're all struggling to get by, and so if you have money, you're not part of that community anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a really hard thing to kind of navigate by yourself.
Yeah.
And so when I did this program, I think I learned a lot about my connection with money and my understanding of my relationship with money. And it wasn't hard to figure out that I believed that money was the root of all evil. But once I said that, it was interesting to um, get that out in the air and write it down, and then figure out why that was, and then after
Mm-hmm.
that, my mind just kind of shifted, right? So
Yeah.
it shifted from like money is not necessarily evil; it's a tool, and it can definitely do evil things, right? You can do bad things, you can gain money doing bad things as well, but you can also do it by doing good, right?
Yeah.
And by helping your community, spreading that wealth, right? And I think one of the
Absolutely.
things that I know you talk a lot about in your podcast and different things, it's about wealth. It's not about money, right? It's not about becoming a millionaire. It's not about making all these things. It's about creating generational wealth so that you and your family can be okay, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so anyway, so going through that program again, that was one of the key things for me that I realized that I needed to understand more about how to thrive within our society. But particularly in investing, it was just one of those things that was so out of the ballpark of who I was and what I knew and the skill set, that it was kind of scary.
Yeah.
But I got to learn more about it and talk to more people, talk to another financial advisor. Uh, After, let's see, I think I had done a few months or a couple quarters in the MBA, and I started to learn a little bit more about what it meant to invest. Talked to an advisor, and then I started my own Roth IRA. And so that was, for me, that was a big accomplishment to just even
It's
start that,
huge. It's a
to
huge
do that, right?
accomplishment.
So, and I think for me, it was like the reason why it was such a big accomplishment was just because you just don't know how to navigate that, right? So, like,
Yeah.
I can't express enough, like, just thinking about putting like $1,000 or $500 or whatever it is into an account that you don't understand is scary, right?
Yeah.
But doing it, I think it felt good afterwards, and it felt good to know that I was doing the right thing for the future. And so, yeah,
Amazing. Oh, you
yeah,
just hit on so many gems. Like we're not even 10 minutes in and you hit on so many important mindset pieces that I want to dig a little deeper. But that was such a good overview. Well, you talked about, the fear of like getting to that point of opening the account. And that's something we see with most people in this immigrant finance community where it's like opening the actual account. There's so much work that has to go in to get to that point, starting with your relationship with money and starting with your beliefs about money. Like you mentioned, you uncovered that you had this belief that money is bad. And that's really common, especially for Catholics, right? Right. And there's a lot of misinterpretations about the Bible, what's said about money in the Bible, right? So yeah, it's interesting, but so let's kind of zoom in on that part. Like what did that look like for you to question those beliefs you had about money and like start to rewrite them?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, it was tough because, so like, like I said, part of the program with my coach that I was speaking about earlier was to like literally write a letter to myself, right? But then before I even wrote the letter, I had to identify what money meant to me, right? And it didn't matter, like in his point of view or the way that we did it was, it didn't matter. I just had to jog down points of what money meant to me, and honestly, a lot of my points initially were all negative. And as we talked about it, the reason why I thought they were all negative was again that idea that if you weren't struggling within the community, just like the rest of us were struggling, you weren't part of that. But additionally, I also view people who had money not helping the community, right? So for me, I think as an individual, it's really important to build community, but not just be part of it, but thrive within it, right? And also bring along as many people as you can to success, and out of that fear or out of poverty or whatever it is that the problem is, help and support, right? And so I view people that were wealthy or that were rich or that had more money, quote unquote, as people that they had committed selfish things in order to better themselves, but they were not helping the community, right? And then I started realizing that that's just, and again, this is my opinion, but I think that that's just the way society and a lot of the structure within our society are like literally structured to put us in an individualistic kind of mindset where if you thrive, someone else can't thrive.
It's scarcity mindset.
Right, exactly. And so that really obviously did not sit well with me. But as I started learning more about it, there's so much abundance in a lot of places, that I think that it doesn't have to be that way, right?
Yeah.
And people can definitely thrive that way. They can definitely compete with one another, and I'm gonna get all these customers, and I'm not gonna let you have them, kind of thing. But you can also think about it differently. Like you are adding value to these customers. Let's pretend that you're a business. You adding these value to those customers. Someone else can give a different kind of value, right? Or even the same value, but in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you start thinking that way, it's a lot better. And I think and also, sorry, and I'm going back now. One of the things that I also didn't understand was that I didn't understand the institutions, and I didn't understand how money actually worked. In the sense of like how it flowed and how it went around, and you earn it, you spend it, with all these like, a lot of people think that it's basic, but understanding all these structures really, really helps understand that it's not all evil, right? And you can use money for good, and you can, and there's nothing wrong with you having money to provide for your family, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to secure safety, health, a good lifestyle for your family, and I think there's a balance. You gotta understand yourself too, right? So I think part of that journey for me was trying to understand who I was and what I wanted to accomplish, and my success story is going to look different than someone else. Someone else might want to become a millionaire, but I don't necessarily want to do that. And that's okay. And both of those things can exist within one society, one community, and that's okay. Right. And so, yeah. So, anyways, I'm like, but I think like taking a step back and understanding who you are, where you fit in, and how. What are your goals, right? And what do you need money for? That really helps, because once you start seeing money as the tool and not necessarily the root of all evil, like that, like it was for me, you can start seeing that you need to earn money to do certain things. And the way you earn money is also your choice at some level, right? Like it depends it depends on your situation. I understand that I have a lot of privilege and I've had a lot of opportunities that maybe a lot of folks don't have and haven't had, right? But taking advantage of all that, I can do good with that, and I can bring more people in. And so I think that's really important. So
I mean, money is just an amplifier. So it makes bad people have more resources to do more bad things, right? It makes
True.
good people have more resources to do more good things. And I think something we often forget is like, even if it's like you want more, and you just want more than what your parents had, or you want more than what you were told was going to be possible for you, we tend to think that that's us being greedy or selfish. But usually it's actually because you want to help other people. It's because you want to provide stability for your children, or you want your family to be safe, like you were saying. So it's actually often still about other people anyway. And
Yeah.
something, when you were talking, it made me think of something I love thinking about that really helped me switch my thinking with money when I learned this, is like, it's just all made up anyway. Money's just made up. Right? Like, it literally was made up thousands of years ago to exchange value. And the first form was like seashells that humans would use to trade. That was the first concept of money. And so if you just kind of remember that when you're having like the weird stories come up about money, or like the stuff in your subconscious that's been drilled in from society that like money is bad, it's just an exchange of value. And it's like, it comes down to like, do you value yourself? Do you value your family? Do you value your family being safe and having options and choices? Like, if so, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be more financially strong. It just puts you in a better position in that sense. So, yeah, is that what you learn in business school, that money's made up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think you hit it well in the sense of, like, in the context of our communities, right? Like, within immigrant communities, I think it's an important reminder that money is not, because and this is the other thing that I wanted to point out, was that a lot of people, I feel like, especially within our communities, like, money is an identifier, and it's like it gives you an identity, right? And
Yeah.
we need to remember to not let money do that, right? Like, just because I earn more money or less money doesn't make me less or better than you or anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still Juan, you're still like whoever you are, right? Like,
Yeah.
whoever we are, we're still that, without more, with more or less money. It doesn't really matter. I think we let money a lot of the times really take a lot of our identity, right?
Yeah.
And and it has to do with class and whatnot. But when you ask about business school, I think it's interesting. Like, in business school, what I've learned more than anything when it comes to this particular topic is that money, it is literally a tool.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people feel like all companies are like, a lot of corporations are evil and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, I'm not disputing that some companies probably do things that are very wrong, and there's companies out there that are really good, like, and there's a whole lot of everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and for sure, when it comes to corporations or the industry or big companies, a lot of the times the objective is definitely to make more profit. But I think that it's important to realize that they're trying to make more profit because they view money as a tool,
Yeah.
and and they don't even see it as, well, in my opinion, and what I've learned is they don't even see it as power. They just see it as opportunity, right? So, I mean, so it is power, but they're really more concerned about opportunity. Like, when I was taking accounting classes and finance class, when we were looking at the, oh my god, it's leaving my head.
It's okay.
The financial statements. There you go. The financial statements of companies and whatnot. Um, when you're reading those, you're really looking at how much did the company make, how much they did in, like, what was the target, like, you're reading all these things, but at the end of the day, the reason why that final number matters is because you're trying to take it to allocate it to something or somewhere, either give dividends to your investors or the shareholders, right? Or you're trying to keep some money in the bank so that if an opportunity comes, you can buy that tool, you can buy that
Yeah.
technology, or really big companies can invest in other companies, right?
Right.
And it's interesting. Like, they truly see, or at least again, what I'm learning is that it's truly a tool, and it's really not about just having cash or money or just having. It's really more about opportunity and how is it that you can expand and create more wealth or become more successful, or and a lot of tech companies that really want to, like, make successful technology, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously it's going to make them profit, but to change whatever it is that they're trying to change. And so, um, anyways, that's one
Yeah.
way, or at least in the business school, that's what we're learning, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, I think we've been seeing that with like trying to grow immigrant finance to meet our mission to reach more people with this message that immigrants can be building wealth. It takes resources to make it takes massive resources to make a massive impact. That's becoming more and more clear, and like to reach more people so that you can help more people, you have to invest in your business, right? And like if you don't find a way to build a business that's sustainably structured, that's bringing in some revenue, like you're going to be using your own money going into debt doing that, and then it becomes like self-sabotaging or like an expensive hobby or something. But I digress. Now we're getting to business. I know we're the topic today is for mindset to start investing, and to bring it back. So you were describing like this amazing self-discovery work you were doing about your relationship with money, it seems like, as part of your journey to becoming an investor. So what would you tell people? Because like I talk to people constantly who they understand the importance of investing and they want to do it, but they don't see themselves that way as investors, or they're too scared of the risk. They're too scared of losing their money. What would you tell people in terms of like how they can begin that mindset journey?
Yeah, I mean, one for sure. Like, I know this is again repetitive. Like, definitely look into how money is relationship, like that relationship you have with money.
Yeah.
I think that's where you definitely need to start. See where you're at. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? So, see what your goals are, right? Because
Yeah.
if you don't know why you're doing something, then you're never gonna do it, and or it's not gonna make sense. The other thing is, I think one of the things, again, this is my personal opinion. One of the things that I think why people don't do it, or they don't want to take that risk, or they see it as something that is not for them, is because they don't understand it. So what I would say is research, and talk to two great things. One, read as much as you can about it. If you have access to any of the materials, read as much as you can. Ask questions. Be curious. Go out there and just inform yourself.
Yeah.
But on top of that, talk to people, right? Like, come onto this page, ask a question, post a comment, build a community within other people that are already doing it,
Yeah.
and try to connect with others. Try to connect with others that are either in the similar path or they're in the same path, or even if they're in the completely opposite path, right? Because there's a lot of different types of investing. Try to find the type of investment that works for you, right? I think a lot of the investment, or well, for me, like I'm very, I want to do my investments so that it's passive in the sense of I want to put it in there and kind of not look at it and then just let
Yeah.
it grow over time. Like, I'm a long term investor. Um,
Same.
right, and that's what I mean by know yourself, right? Like, I'm not in a point in my life where I want to look at the stock market and look at it daily and then see where I'm going to move money or what I'm going to do on a daily basis. I'd rather open a Roth IRA, purchase on the stock that or the stock, right, that you need or that you want, or whatever. EFTs, that's what I wanted. Purchase whatever it is that you need and then just let it grow, right? And
Absolutely.
right, and build your portfolio and then let it grow. And I think for me personally, like, again, I have a financial advisor. That's one of the benefits. So I work at Santa Clara University, and it's one of the benefits that we have here. Is that I get to talk to a financial advisor. So he's helped me a lot with starting that portfolio.
Awesome.
So that's what I mean. Try to talk to people. Try to get into these conversations so that you understand what it is to make a portfolio. Like, what kind of stocks, what kind of ETFs, what's the difference between those two things? What can you do, right? And so, as if you're informed, you will be way more confident in doing something that you've never done before, right? Like
Yeah.
like I said, I opened my Roth IRA, and it was a scary thing, and
Yeah.
I'm in the MBA, right? So, like, I have business knowledge. Like, I've talked to people that are in business, thing related things. I had a financial advisor. Like, I'm a type of person that I need security. So
Yeah.
if I don't have that security, I'm not going to take the step. And so, I'm working on that. By the way, I need to take more risks. That's what I need to do. But
It's good to know yourself.
but if you understand yourself, you're able to take those steps that
Yeah.
will allow you to take that first step. And once you take that first step, you're gonna thrive. Like, you're just gonna keep going, and
Yeah.
just go with it, right? And I thankfully have been investing since I started my Roth IRA. I have kept with my plan of investing every month, and
Good for
it's just
you.
something that is, yeah, it's just something that's there, and I'm grateful for it. And you know, and I know, and the other thing is, to start, I think a lot of people want perfection, and that's the other thing that
Mm,
don't worry about being perfect. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake, right?
totally.
If
That's how you
you
learn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how you learn. And also understand, like, for example, like I keep saying, or I just said that I kept with my plan of investment every month. If one of those months I, for whatever reason, don't have that money and I can't invest, that's okay. I'll just leave
Right.
my portfolio as it is. And next month I'm gonna jump back into it, or I'm gonna
Right.
see why didn't I, what didn't work out, and then kind of react. And life is not perfect, and life is definitely not linear. So just because you start with a plan doesn't mean that you're gonna keep up with it. Stuff changes, right?
That's
So
good
I
advice.
think that's one of the things that we need to let go is let go of perfection. Like that's not, don't worry about it. Like make a
Yeah.
plan, take that first step, and then adapt as you go.
Oh, you hit so many good things. I wish I was taking notes because there's so many things I want to draw out of you on. So one is like I think it's good for people to hear you say, I'm not a risky person. Like security is important to me, yet you're investing. Because that's a big misconception people have that if you invest, it's therefore very risky. It's like gambling. Not true at all. You can do the type of investing you're talking about, and it's the same kind we teach in our immigrant finance school program, which is like the long term buy and hold conservative investing that historically has been proven to have very high rates of return of about 7 to 12% over the past 100 years. And it's actually really hard to beat that, even if you were like day trading and trading stocks every day trying to get that hottest price, you probably wouldn't beat that anyway. So you can do it in a conservative way, right? Did you want to add something to that?
No, I just want to say like that is something that we or at the business school. That's exactly what we talk about. Like Warren Buffett, right? Challenge
Yeah.
all the like the heavy or the big name investors to beat the market, and they couldn't over like I think a period of 10 years or something. And that was a famous case that we did. So yeah, I just wanted to say I think you're absolutely right, and that's why I said it. I wanted to
Yeah.
people to know that
Yeah.
I'm not a risky person, and even so, I am still investing, and that is something that you can definitely do. You
Yeah.
just gotta understand it. Just go find some resources and read and talk to people. I love talking to people, so definitely talk to people.
That was another point I wanted to emphasize you were saying of like talk to people, get the support, get the resources because they make it sound so scary and intimidating. And I have theories why. I have a conspiracy theories why. I mean, I think it's to keep certain people out from these opportunities, financial opportunities. I think it's to make it seem like you have to go pay an advisor a lot of money to do it all for you when a lot of this you can do yourself on your own, right? So it's about knowing that and like having the confidence to get over the hard part in the beginning where you just have to learn some new terms, kind of like learning a new language. And I always tell people just every time you hear a new investing word, just look it up. Just keep looking. Eventually, by repeating at some point, it's going to start making a little bit of sense. And getting that support, like, we wasted 7 years trying to figure out on our own how to invest. Right. And like during that time, we missed out on probably tens of thousands of dollars we could have been making while we were sleeping because we were being stubborn trying to figure out. Like now I'm glad because I spent 7 years researching, and I know a lot about it. But um, I wish we had just like found someone who could help guide us through it and get us started. Because the most important thing is starting as soon as possible so you have that time in the market for your money to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, I mean you're hitting the very valuable thing there, which is time, right? I
Time.
think especially if you're not a risky person like myself, I luckily have somewhat time on my side because I'm relatively still young, right? And so I can invest for a number of years and make that huge thing. But even if you don't have that much time, you can still do it. And I
Yeah.
think I think that's one of the things that like it's never too late. And you're right. I mean, once everybody learns, I think there's a very common thing where we're like, oh man, I should have like started 10 years ago, right? But I think specifically within our community, I think it's very important to point out that the reason why we don't start is because we don't have that information. We don't
Yeah.
have that support. We don't have that knowledge, right? And knowledge is wealth. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it is. And I don't mean education, right? Like I don't mean formal education. I mean like someone to tell you like, do this, do that, like, right, like here, this is the tip that I have, or that I, whatever. And like one of the things that I'm very grateful for to be able to do this is going through these experiences and talking to others and going through it first myself, and then me relaying that information to my sisters. Like one of my sister, she's going to be a senior in high school. She's a senior in high school, so she's graduating. And primeramente Dios, she's going to be going to college next
Oh my
year.
gosh. Did you open an
Yeah.
investment account for her?
So not yet, but we're talking about it. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like she just turned 17 2 days ago,
Yeah,
um,
that's
and
awesome.
we're already having these conversations, right?
That's
Like I'm already
amazing.
teaching her how to budget. I'm teaching her like how to think differently. And then also and then I have my other sister who's the middle kid. She's in college right now, but she's also doing that. Like she's doing her own budgeting thing. She's also thinking of investments. She opened her Roth IRA, and she doesn't have a lot of money in it, but we opened it, and so like now we're
Okay.
learning about it, right? And so
That's
it's like,
amazing.
yes, I started super late, quote unquote, compared to them. But at the end of the day, for me, and again, and this is where like the know who you are piece comes in. For me, I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for my
Ah,
kids. I'm doing
I
it for
love
my family.
that.
Right? So for me, it wasn't late. For me, it was perfect. They're like in
Yeah.
college. It's like right on the time. It's like right on the dot. And so it feels good to be part of their journey as I'm learning my own journey, right? And
Yeah.
so again, find and one of the things that I've learned in the MBA as well is you have to find your reason why, right? If
Mm.
you don't find that reason why, you're not going to do something, or you're not going to do it. You need to find that why, and that purpose will keep you motivated. And like you said,
Yeah.
like like looking up a word that you don't understand or reading about something, you're not going to do it unless you really want to do it. But you have to have a
Yeah.
reason to do it, right? So find that reason why. Find out why, and then do it for that. So
That's also really important. I think you were starting to touch on the beginning. I forget the language you used, but you were talking about kind of how you have to take the initiative yourself, something along those lines. And personal responsibility is huge with this stuff because, like you said, you have to first of all, you have to believe you deserve it.
yes,
You have to
yeah.
believe you deserve it. Right, and then once you believe that, and you have a why of why you're doing it, then it's not going to happen by itself, and no one's going to do it for you.
And it was interesting. I don't remember what episode I listened to one of your podcasts, and you were talking about I think it was one of your early episodes. You were talking about how charging less for your services was a problem, right? And when you charge more, is because you're deserving and because your time is valuable, and all of that. And I thought that episode was awesome because
Thank you.
one of the yeah, no, it is because one of the things. So like my dad, he's a construction worker, but he recently, and by recently I mean a couple of years ago, he got his contractor license, and so he's doing his own business, and he has his own construction company. But it's just him right now. He has no employees, and he just kind of trying to start it off. Um, but one of the things that he does that I struggle with him a lot is that he undercharges, and he undercharges
Yeah.
because he feels that he needs to get exposure, and to get those clients, he wants to undercharge so that they'll give him the job. And I told him that his quality of work and his dedication to his work is way more valuable.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is and you hit it right on the nail. Like feeling that you're deserving of that recognition, or feeling that you're deserving of earning more money, is really important because it gives you need to understand your self-worth to really believe that you deserve more money, right? And don't get me wrong, that is a hard thing to do.
It
I
is
struggle with
hard.
it.
Me
It's hard.
too.
It's
I
hard
struggle
because
every day with that.
exactly, no, and I'm sure you do. And I don't know if it was the same episode or maybe it was the one after that, or I don't know. But you also mentioned um, being or wanting to like help the community by giving them something free, right? Or like trying to like provide value to someone. And I struggle with that, right? Like I feel like because I haven't started my own business, I know we talked about it last time. I haven't started my own business, but it's because I struggle with like what kind of value am I going to provide to someone?
Yeah.
And then I don't feel like I should charge for it. Like I feel like if I have knowledge, I should just give it out. But I think that's something that we struggle as immigrants and first
Yes.
generation in our community. Like we struggle with the idea that we are deserving, that we are worth it, that our knowledge is valuable, that our time is valuable. I think that's the big one. Our time, we don't value our time as much as we should, I think.
We could talk about
So
this for days. I mean, I did another episode recently about like immigrants shouldn't be overworking so much. And
okay.
for me, it's really connected because it's like in this country, immigrants are treated as a source of cheap labor. So when you
Yes,
think about like those bad businesses that do exist, that it's just all about profit at whatever expense, including harming people, right? And working people to the bone. Like there's a lot of people being treated that way, right? And it's really hard to change your mindset when you've been doing that your whole life. We've been working 3 jobs, working 14-hour days to survive, to be like, no, I deserve more. I deserve to work less and make more, which is
yeah,
what wealthy people do. You don't see wealthy people working three
but
jobs.
yeah. I think, yeah. No, you're hitting it right on the nail. I agree with you. I think that's something that also plays a big role into, particularly in the concept we're talking about, investing is. I think the idea of earning money without doing anything
Yeah.
is like not a thing, right? Like
Yeah.
in our community, like that doesn't. It's not even like it's not even a thought. Like
Yeah.
it's always there's always that you have to work for the money that you. So you're always earning it
Right.
yourself.
Trading time for money.
You're trading time, right? And so in our communities, we don't think about trading it as time. We just think of it as like hard work, and
Yeah.
we take pride in our hard work, which we should. I think that's obviously hard working is a very good quality to have. Um,
Yeah.
but we do need to make room for the idea of making money work for you, right? And making
Right.
money work for yourself, right? And being able to invest, it feels unreal. It feels like, okay, I'm gonna loan money sort of quote unquote, and then I'm gonna get returns. Like that's only something a bank would do kind of thing, right? And so um and the reason why I bring this up is because I struggle with particularly again my dad.
Yeah.
Um, he just I wanted to start a Roth IRA with him or an RIA actually like just a regular RIA because I felt that was the right move for him. And I was so close to opening the account, and then at the last minute he bailed. He bailed on me
Mm.
and just didn't do it, and I was not necessarily disappointed. I completely understand. Um, because it's unfamiliar to him, right? It's unfamiliar, and I need to work on how to communicate that better with him.
Yeah.
Um,
Was it
but
fear?
yes, it was absolutely fear. It was fear of like it was fear, but then also I think, and we talked about this, I think, and a lot of folks around me, that mindset of surviving versus thriving, right?
Right.
So being able to have that money because and I did let them know like, hey, once you invest the money, you won't be able to get it for like X amount of time or whatever it was, right? And the fear, it was fear of not being able to access that money that he had already
Yeah.
earned. And so in and I don't want to speak ill of my dad, like that's not what I'm doing here, but the lack of vision of the future sometimes is what gets us, right? Like if
Mm.
we don't see that future clearly, and this is why your goals are really important because you need to see the end goal in order to be able to have faith in the process.
Yeah.
Because if you just put money into an account with no end goal, yeah, I can completely understand someone not wanting to do that and being like, well, why would I put this amount of money in this account when I can use it for whatever else? And that's exactly what happened. My dad was like, well, I might need it for something else, and I won't be able to access it. And so that was the piece that didn't go well with him. And again, I completely understand. Um, but it's something that I realized that our community struggles. Like we rather we rather have our money accessible to us than being able to invest it in a long term account,
Yeah.
um, and build wealth with it. And so
Yeah.
anyway,
No, totally. And it's so understandable, especially when like if you don't have status or you've had periods in your life where like you had instability, right? It's that security that like you talked about in the beginning is so important for you, you know? So it makes sense. But one thing a lot of people don't know is there are investment accounts like Roth IRAs where you can actually take out the money you put in without penalties. So you can take
right.
out your contributions without penalties. So it's kind of like we actually just had a really good training right before this with Vina from Equitable Advisors and his partner Ian, and they were talking about how a Roth IRA is actually kind of like a little bank account because you can take that money out if you need it, right? So it's in some ways it's more serious. It can just grow as well while it's in there. But yeah, I mean, so many people we work with, like their parents are exactly what you just described, and there's this immense fear with it. But what I've seen is that like when they see their kid doing it and they see their kid getting more confident and comfortable with investing, and they're sharing what they're learning and their money's growing, and they every month show their parent the statement or whatever, they start to open up and they eventually want one too. So you're kind of like you're the leader in your family. I mean, you clearly are the leader in your family with this topic. I'm sure other topics as well. But that's what everyone listening needs to do. Like if even if you have family members who are resisting, be the leader and be the example for them of what can be possible and bring them along with you, right?
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like, again, being first generation and not having those people around me that could guide me, it's been hard to do those things. But once you see how you can do it, you can bring other people along. And definitely, for sure, within my family, I am trying to be that leader, trying to be a good leader, and trying to get them to do these things. And for sure, I definitely see that my sisters that they're definitely following some of the advice that I'm giving them, right? And some of the advice is they're just too young, like it doesn't really apply to them, but it's something that they're already thinking about, and
Yeah.
that's what I think is important. And I'm like, every time, and it's funny, like they bring up an idea or they say something, and I'm always thinking like, you can make that into a business, you can do this, you can do that. So I'm always having to think of like how to take the next step, right? And
That's
so
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
mean, changing the family legacy right there. Like that, like it's possible. Like you're providing this example for people, like, we see people are wealthy, we're like, that could never be me. But it's just a decision. It's just a
yeah.
decision.
Yeah, and I think for us, the people like the older brothers and siblings, and the folks that are doing it on their own, and they're being those pioneers within your family, within your community, I think it's important to understand that representation also matters. So put yourself out there. I have so much respect for account like yours, for other accounts that like do these kind of things where
Thanks.
you'll do lives, you'll post posts, like you'll do trainings and stuff like that, because our people being seen doing these things is really important, and we don't see that enough. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things as to why we just don't know enough. We don't know enough. We don't. It doesn't apply to us because we don't see folks like us that look like us that have the same experiences going through this journey. And luckily, I think I'm seeing a shift, or I'm hoping that I'm seeing a shift. And I think hopefully it's not just me, just kind of being in a small community. I hope that every one of us is kind of spreading out and having those, having people see us and understand that we're in it together and we're here.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, you're so inspiring. This has been amazing. And you've dropped a lot of mindset gems. I think they're going to help a lot of people. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you want to make sure to mention?
Let's see. I just keep. The only thing that I would say is with everything that we talked about, and there's plenty of more. Like you said, we can talk on for days about all of these topics. But one of the things that I would say is don't give up. Don't give up. And then going back with life is not perfect, and I think that's one of the big lessons that I've learned in my financial journey, but in just in life itself. Nothing is perfect, and no one does one thing the same way. So be yourself and never give up. Just keep going. If something doesn't work out, dust off, get back up, and just keep going.
Yeah.
It's really important to be resilient and to be strong. And again, I think a lot of folks are around to support one another. So look out for those folks, and hopefully we can build more communities and more people like us can be doing great things. So
I love it. Thank you so much. You're such a gem. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing all this wisdom and inspiration. Folks, where can folks follow you, reach out, support you?
right now, I think the only place that I'm at, well, I'm just my personal account, just Stephon. So it's D1P20 on Instagram, and that's about it. I'm not really on anything, but I will sure. When so after our conversation, I want folks to know that after our conversation, I have not stopped thinking about what online business I'm gonna do. So
Yes.
I'm like focused on it. So
Good for
hopefully I
you.
will get a good idea and then I'll start doing it. And then I'll let you know, and we can connect through collabs or something. I don't know, but yeah. So just for now, that's my account.
Oh wait, you can't just drop that and expect me to not say anything. Like, okay, why? I'm sorry, 2 more minutes, because I love talking about online business. Like, especially with this topic we've been talking about. Like, that is
Mhm.
literally how you can have more financial stability and independence, and an increased income, and help people and invest more. You can have more stability. Like, it's you have so many more options when you learn how to generate income on your own, right? And not have to rely on an employer. And you can also expand your impact in an infinite way. But yeah, why are you thinking about online business?
Oh, and this, I can't believe I didn't say this before, but multiple sources of income. I think that's one
Yeah.
of the key things that we don't think, and that goes tied to selling our time for money. We only
Yeah.
think of one place earning money, but investing is one of the examples of how you can earn money in a different way that's not your time. But then
Mhm.
also having multiple sources, like having a side hustle, like an online business on top of your job on the weekends or whatever. Like a side hustle doesn't have to make you thousands of dollars, but it can give you that extra amount. In my way of thinking, and here, let me share what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I want to hear
I'm
it.
hoping to do an online business that will allow me to earn enough money, which is not a whole lot, to just invest. So I will
Mm.
keep my business alive with whatever
Yeah.
I earn and whatever is profit, quote unquote profit. Um, I will take that and invest it in either my Roth IRA or something else, but I will invest it. And so that money that I work for, I don't plan on spending it. I spend on investing it for the future. And then when I work, I have my day job. That's what I'll live off of. So that for now
Such
is
a
my
good
plan.
plan.
Yeah,
And this is so important for people to hear, because when we think about finance and building wealth, people think about paying off debt, or they think about budgeting, which, like, those things are incredibly important. They have to be part of your financial plan, but you're not going to build wealth by paying off debt, right? And so finding ways to, like you said, have multiple streams of income so that you can reach your goals faster. Like you're saying, this will be another way to increase income, to invest more. And then,
right.
like, everything you're doing, like, you have the plan, you're just going to expand it basically, and things
Yeah,
will move faster. And knowing you, like, I mean, this is only my second time talking to you, but I can tell you're like a very mission oriented person. You're really connected to your community. You love helping people. So I'm sure whatever you create with your business is also going to be like changing people's lives, which is just like the cherry on top.
that is the goal. That is the goal. I'm trying to figure that out to see how I can provide value to our community. So yeah.
I'm confident you will find a way.
Thank you.
Awesome. That was a great way to wrap up. Thank you so much, Juan. This was awesome. And let's continue the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was amazing. So thank you.
Yeah. You're great. Take care. Have a good rest of the night.
Bye bye.
Bye.